Hi, everyone. Welcome to our show for December 15th, 2014. My name is David Kosmeter. I am the creator of Timing Research, and today we will be discussing the 64th weekly report for TimingResearch.com. You have not had a chance to take a look at this report yet. Just go to TimingResearch.com/reports, and you will be able to download it there. I have Dave Landry here guest hosting for me again, so I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, David Kosmeter, and thanks again for having me guest host, and thanks for Timing Research. Cameron, let's start with you. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and tell me a little bit about DimensionTrader.com.
Like anybody else, I started trading. I've been trading on and off all my life. I used to have a Series 7 as a stockbroker back in the days in Denver. Enjoyed the penny market, the oil and gas boom in the 80s, which really isn't trading, but it was sure a lot of fun as long as the ride lasted. And been in and out of a variety of different things, but trading has always been something I've always come back to. Primarily options and a little bit of futures trading. Currently, I'm with Dimension Trader. That's DimensionTrader.com. And we specialize in the development of very sophisticated indicators. We're indicator-based trading, primarily in the futures markets, and very effective indicators and trading systems as a result I'm putting together. So I do encourage everybody to take a look at DimensionTrader.com.
Okay, fantastic. Sounds like some interesting things going on there. Shawn, tell us a little bit about yourself, Shawn Mckisson, and tell us a little bit about 360wallstreet.com.
I've been trading since I was 17, 18 years old. I had a couple businesses in the meantime, but I was always trading. Actually got my Series 3 for a while, was a branch manager of a futures firm. Got out of that, didn't really like the broker side of it. So the 360 Wall Street, we're just kind of creating that website. We've had many websites over the years, for probably the last 9 years. Our main focus right now is just futures. And we're making fully automated systems, which is taking longer than anticipated. If you ever want to get fully frustrated trying to make a fully automated system, it's super complex, but that's where we're kind of going into the future, is really just sticking with futures, automated day trading systems. They don't hold overnight. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at right now.
Very interesting, very interesting. Okay. All right, Steve Primo. Steve was affiliated with a website that I was affiliated with at one point in time, and that's about all I know about Steve. Well, a little bit more than that, I guess. He's also affiliated with Festival Traders, which I occasionally speak at, and Steve Primo is at ProTraderStrategies.com. So, Steve, tell us a little bit more about yourself, and tell us a little bit about ProTraderStrategies.com.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. Yeah, I'm a newbie here, and I want to thank Timing Research for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm actually the president and founder of Specialist Trading, which is first and foremost an educational website. ProTrader Strategies is our sister site, which markets and promotes all of my courses and teachings. As I stated, we're an educational site where we just try to teach and give all of our students and members all the tips and techniques that I've accumulated in my 37 years. I started trading roughly 37 years ago on the floor of the Pacific Stock Exchange. I was on the floor for a total of 16 years, and 9 of those years I was a specialist for DLJ, Johnson Lufkin, and Jenrette. I traded through the crash, through the great bull market that followed after that, and in the mid-90s I left the floor to manage money and to pursue my own trading. I've been asked to be the educator for a lot of websites, director of education, teaching their strategies and systems, but 6 or 7 years ago I got quite a following, so I decided just to teach and mentor students what I actually use myself, all the things that I've learned from the floor and what I currently use in my own trading. So we give signals and setups for all the markets, for stocks, futures, and for the currency pairs, but we're really more about educating you, because it's our philosophy that the reason why most traders lose upwards of 80% is because they really give their power away. They rely on someone or something to tell them what to do. And so we give you the education so that you can really ultimately make your own trading decisions.
Yeah, that floor experience is invaluable. I can't imagine how great that must be. I know some very famous traders, and I asked them how they got good at trading, and they said, well, when I was on the floor, I looked to the left and looked to the right, and whoever was there. 2 months later, I glommed onto them and learned much from them. A very high turnover rate, from what I understand. Yeah. I'm Dave. I don't want to talk too much being the host, but I'm Dave Landry of TimingResearch.com. I'm slotted as a swing trader, but I will stay with positions for as long as they move in my favor. I've been on both sides of the market. I was a CTA for about 14 years, so I worked on the institutional side for quite a while. I still do some consulting there. And then also retail, which could be considered, I guess, an educational business. I've written 3 books, and they're in 7 languages total. I do have a 21-page report, which is pretty much the crux of my methodology. The rest is just detail. So if anybody wants that, I can be reached at dave@davelandry.com. Cameron, let's go over to you. The first question this week, or question number 2 actually, is based on any technical fundamental indicators you want to use, would you guess that the S&P will move higher or lower by the close on Friday? And that's the 12/19/14 close, Friday of this week.
This is always a tough one.
Yeah.
Well, I think if we do come off, we're not going to come off more than 8.5% on the S&P. And a lot of this is going to depend on FOMC on Wednesday, I think. In addition to this, well, we got the oil, we got FOMC, and then we got Santa Claus. You know, Santa Claus is going to come through this year and give us a little rally. Let's hope so. Although, intellectually, I'm thinking this thing could come off this week. I think that there is also a good chance that we might see a little Santa Claus rally. I don't think the Fed's going to give us any surprises on Wednesday.
Okay.
And I think this thing's going to end up Friday higher than where it is.
Okay. And based on your prediction, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being no confidence and 10 being 100% extremely confident, what would you rate your rating?
Absolutely a 6.
A 6, a solid 6. All right.
Solid 6.
I almost had to stop you there because the next question is going to be what developing situations could affect the market. So, but yeah, you gave us some good some things to chew on there. All right, Shawn, let's go over to you. Shawn Mckisson at 360 Wall Street. Based on any technical fundamental indicators you want to use, would you guess that the S&P index will move higher or lower this week? And that would be from today's open to the close on Friday, 12/19/14.
You know, the time is always hard because we're putting an end date of Friday. I pretty much am just technical trader looking at patterns. The structure of the daily and weekly on the ES is bullish, new high or higher highs, higher lows. So at this point, I'm looking for today to be a short-term low and then a bounce back to resistance around 2030. The time duration of that happening, I think the bounce could be very quick. You know, 1-2 days, just a massive short squeeze. So I would say higher, but you know, we could go higher over the next 1.5 days and then turn down and go lower to the lower support, which is about 1940. So overall, since the structure's up, I have to say we end higher. My confidence, 6.34.
6.34. David, are we allowed fractional answers?
Yeah, I won't allow that in the survey, but
no, just joking. I would say around, you know, probably 60%. It all depends on. I'm not so much looking at the day of Friday. I'm just looking at the pattern. I think short term we put a low in right here, bounce back to about 2030 on the ES.
Gotcha. Okay, Steve, up to you. Based on any technical or fundamental indicators you want to use, would you guess that the S&P will move higher or lower this week? And that would be the close of Friday, 12/19/14.
Well, you know, specialist trading is really not a prognostication type of company, but we really follow 2 main tools. The first is an overall trend identifier. We call our buy-sell line, and that is still telling us that the market is basically positive. But we have a very short-term tool called the PET-D, which on the 10th, last Wednesday, told us to go short. So it all depends what side of the fence you want to be on. But overall, I would probably say, because we have one of our swing buy setups, as I see forming here on today, we haven't closed yet, but if we're still sitting where we are, roughly around at the close of today, we'll have a buy setup for tomorrow. So I'm going to have to go with being long, and I'd give it a solid 8.
Solid 8. Very good. Very confident there. Okay. I guess it's up to me. I think that as a pullback player, the market has pulled back, and as a trend guy, I've got to go with the trend. So it looks like the trend is still intact. Looks like we're still headed higher. A little nervous about us pulling back much below where we are now, much below that 2,000. I think if we get that 1,000 digit or handle, however you want to look at it, I think that's going to put a little pressure on the market. But I'm going to go with up, and I'm going to give it a confidence level of 7. And the only thing I would point out, not that this is part of the prediction, but I would keep an eye on what I call my bow tie moving averages, and that's a 10-period simple, a 20-period exponential, and a 30-period exponential moving average. When you have a crossover of those moving averages over a very short period of time, especially after coming off a major high, or in the case of like the S&P 500, an all-time high, sometimes you could have a significant change in trend. So I'm hoping we head higher. I'm thinking we'll head higher. But if we don't, I'm ready. I've got stops in place, and I'm ready to start shorting if these market begins to roll over and the moving averages follow suit. Okay. So it sounds like we're mostly bullish this week. You know, one thing that kind of amazes me is the amount of bears that came out of the woodwork as soon as this little market has the slightest of slides, and people are calling for all these major tops out there. So that's pretty amazing. Let's go with Cameron first here. What developing events, and they could be technical or fundamental, will you be watching out for this week that might have a positive impact on the S&P 500 or other markets, other U.S. markets, that is?
Well, like I mentioned before, I think oil is going to find its bottom here in the mid-50s, maybe the low 50s, but I think it's going to stop here if it were to go down below 50. I keep falling, which I think is highly unlikely. Then I would be concerned. So I'll be watching that. FOMC on Wednesday, certainly another thing to be watching out for. So those are the two items right now, I think.
Okay. Okay. It was funny on Saturday Night Live. They talked about oil being $50 a barrel, and he said at that price, it's actually a good price for the barrel itself. So. Okay, Shawn, let's go to you. What developing events, technical fundamentals, will you be watching out for this week? And that's a weekend, obviously, December 19th, that might have a positive or negative impact on the S&P 500 or other U.S. markets.
You know, I'm just a technical trader. I've learned over all the time doing this that the news flow and this and that, they could easily build fear with it, or they can build greed with everyone, and they can push the sentiment of the market, basically do the opposite of what you think some news event is going to, come about. So I've learned to not really pay too much attention to all of that. I just look at the structure, and as long as the S&P stays above 1910, the structure is still bullish. Really, it's the wave structure down to that. So at this point, I'm not concerned with any fundamentals. It's easy to think that everything changes every day, but in reality, it doesn't. So I'm just strictly sticking to the pattern at this point. Staying above 1910, I'm still bullish.
Gotcha. What's interesting is I try to avoid news at all costs, but I get a little bit through osmosis. And over the last week or so, I've heard that stock prices have gone down because oil prices have gone down, and stock prices have gone down. Stock prices are going down because oil prices have gone down. So it's like I think I got that wrong. But anyway, they blamed prices headed in the same direction on oil headed in the same direction, which made no sense. So oil went down, stocks went down, and then anyway, they got it all. Whatever's happening, they blame it on. I'll get that right for next week. But yeah, it was on both sides of the market. Whatever oil was doing, even though it was going down, it was making the market do whatever it was. It's just crazy. All right, Steve, let's go to you. What developing events, technical or fundamental, will you be watching out for this week that might have a positive or negative impact on the S&P 500 or other U.S. markets?
Well, Dave, when I first started out on the floor, my first year or two, it was tremendously frustrating. I couldn't make a dime. I was doing everything that I had been taught to do, and one of the major things I was doing was listening to news and looking at all the fundamentals and waiting for the money supply in those days and things of that nature. And I still couldn't make a dime. Finally, my mentors on the floor took me aside and said, Steve, listen, that's actually getting in the way of your success. Everything you need to know is right in front of you on the chart in front of you, in price and the chart. So once I started just focusing on the technicals, my trading started to become more and more consistent. So therefore, there's really nothing fundamentally that we pay much attention to as well at specialist trading. And we keep things as simple as possible. One of the most basic things we just look for is if price is above the 50-period moving average, if we have closes above there. If we have 2 to 3 consecutive closes below, then we'll pretty much overall start to think we may be in a overall downtrend. So as long as price is staying above, I'm still staying bullish, and as well as seeing that nice formation of a buy setup on one of our strategies.
Amen. Amen to the fundamentals. I mean, to no fundamentals and to following the technicals and avoiding the news. It really can get in the way of what you do. I see this market has been a little oversold here, but still in an uptrend, which is a pullback. So I'm not a reversion to the mean player, but somebody pointed out to me once that I do play reversion to the mean in the direction of the trend. I guess I do that as a pullback guy. So as a pullback guy, unless this thing sells off much further, I have to look at the charts and say that we're oversold, and I think we're due for a bounce. Now, the nature of that bounce will be telling. If we go on to make new highs, then I think that this is just yet another little correction in the market. The only thing else I might want to throw in here, I don't know if this is the appropriate time or not, but one thing to be careful, and this is where I would once again watch these bow tie moving averages and pay attention to the market. If it does continue to slide, this pullback becomes something a little bit bigger, is that since 2009, we really haven't had a serious sell-off in this market. We've had a few little signals where they've 6 to 8, 10%, and then the market's going right back up. And one of these times it won't do that, and that's what we're going to have to watch for. So if we start getting sell signals in here, I'd start getting a little nervous. But for now, I think technically we're oversold and due to bounce in the back of the direction of the trend. Cameron, we're going to you next. Question is, who has been most influential and or inspirational to your trading career, and why?
I put a lot of, as a day trader, I put a lot of emphasis on the psychological aspect, the fear and the uncertainty sometimes you can experience. So I'd have to say Mark Douglas, who deals with the psychology of trading, really influenced me a lot, impacted me. The rest of it is really just experience and learning and being there, and we all have a tremendous amount of resources at our fingertips. With the internet the way it is, we can go out there and we can glean all kinds of information. And a lot of trading is in addition to being psychological, is what type of style, what matches your personality, what type of person are you, what's your risk level, how do you react to something going against the way you intended it to go. So I'd have to say Mark Douglas from a psychological standpoint, because once you get over that hurdle, then it's just embracing your style of trading and what you like, whether it be technical or fundamental or whatever.
Yeah, I ran into psychological hurdles very early in trading, and Douglas, I would have to agree with you on that. Very good stuff from him. All right, let's go over to Shawn next. Shawn, who has been most influential and or inspirational to you in your trading career, and why?
Well, I first started trading. My girlfriend's uncle was always talking about the markets when I was like 16. That's how I kind of got into it. Then there was a local broker that I would go to his office every morning, I did that for 2 years. I learned a lot there, but looking back, I also learned a lot of negative things too. But like the other guest was saying, it all depends on your part of the journey, right? There's value at every part, and there's a lot of negatives at every part, but it's really kind of finding who you are. Trading makes you realize more who you are because you have to admit your mistakes. It takes years to learn how to admit your mistakes, and it's very hard for most people to do that. So I would say right now, it's a group of friends locally, and my inspiration is when I do, a 3-month training course when the traders start actually getting what I'm saying. That kind of is a positive and keeps me going. But yeah, I think it just depends. I mean, I've been trading since I was 17. I'm 38 now. So looking back, there's just so many different parts. But I think the main thing is just admitting mistakes and changing it. So I don't know if that answers the question, but.
Well, it does. It answers a question. I'm not sure it answered the question, but that's okay. That's a good answer. Steve, Primo, who has been most influential or inspirational to you in your trading career, and why? Steve, this is to you.
Okay, I actually have two sources. The first is my father, actually. I saw him as a young child. He used to invest and trade himself in commodities and in stocks, and I had no idea what he was doing, and I had no interest actually either as a young child. But he saw something in me. In fact, he saw that I could recognize patterns at an early age, and he was always trying to push me in that direction. And then once I finally got on the floor, a couple of mentors, these were specialists themselves who had been trading 30 years or so. They're the ones that were able to turn my trading around. They really saw how much I was struggling and how complicated, overcomplicated I had made my trading. And I remember they told me one of the most important things I'll never forget. They said, Steve, it's the easiest thing in the world to overcomplicate your trading. Anyone can do that. You can be trading 20 minutes or 20 years. You can add as many tools or watch as many news reports or fundamental news you want. It doesn't take a lot of character to overcomplicate your trading, but it really takes a lot of character to simplify your trading. And that's what they taught me, to let go of a lot of the things that were really basically useless. And there was no consistency to them. And once I did, I got on that road to consistency. So I would say 2 steps, my father getting me in the industry, and then my mentors on the floor.
Yeah, interesting about the simplification of Steve. I've seen a lot of presentations, and being members of these organizations that I'm in, I'll sit through these presentations, and there'll be this big complex system with all these buys and sells. And sometimes, if you just look at the chart, a simple moving average system would have probably gotten you in once or twice and caught the majority of the trend, but they were in and out 100 times. So it's amazing how simplifying things can work. As far as my influence, I was lucky enough early on to hook up with some people who have had a lot of market experience. I was doing a lot of mechanical testing early in my career, and through that I met Larry Connors, and we did some work together. And he gave me the confidence to believe in myself and to believe in my work. Around the same time, I was lucky enough to work with Jeff Cooper, and he taught me how to read charts, and that was a very a valuable thing. And then the one other influence, as Cameron, I think, said earlier, Douglas did help me out with the psychological problems with trading, but Linda Raskey also helped quite a bit as far as just her general mentality towards the market and the market players and participants and all. And I always find you get something really good out of Linda Raskey. She's in this organization with me, and I always go to hear her speak. In fact, I'm in charge of the speakers this year, so I want to make sure we get her on the roster. So I'd say Linda Raskey. You always get something good out of Linda. And then, like I said, early on in my career, Larry Connors and Jeff Cooper helped me out tremendously. Okay. I think that's the last question. Let me go to you, Dave Cosmeter, just for 1 second. Any write-in questions or anything that we need to cover before we go to closing thoughts?
The Q&A app is apparently not working today for some reason, but
Okay.
but no questions.
Yeah, we need to get that app working because there's like I said, every show we have, I always learn something, and there's always some wonderful points that are being brought up. I'm getting a little hiss. Is that okay? It's gone. Okay, let's go ahead and wrap things up. Cameron, any closing thoughts or anything else you want to tell us about DimensionTrader.com?
No, just take a look at the website, DimensionTrader.com. It's pretty comprehensive. It tells you a good look at what we are, and we do have a training room Monday, Tuesdays, and Thursdays where you see one of our systems called the Easy Trader in operation in the live trade in the E-mini, the ES, and you can register right there on our home page for a guest pass. And so I do encourage people to do that, DimensionTrader.com. Dave, I got to ask you a question. You got any dinar hanging on the wall behind you?
Somewhere. One day I'm going to make a map of where everything is. Dinar is from
Iraq.
Yeah. I've got a lot of that. It's all the purple you see. I use that. I've got so much of that. I use it as backfiller.
I like your wall. I think it's great. All that.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Yeah, I just had a bunch of currencies jammed in there, and my wife's friend said you got to break it up with something, so I put a little map of the world in between. But hey, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. All right, Shawn, let's go to you. Any closing thoughts or anything else you want to tell us about 360wallstreet.com?
Everyone can sign up for free on the homepage. We're going to start up our free wave training at the beginning of the year. Right now, we're just focused on getting the auto trader completely done and getting all the back tests done, but we will be showing that next year. And we do free training on wave structure and fibs. So, yeah, that's about it.
Cool. And like Cameron said earlier, there's a lot of free resources out there. It's a great way to get started, get your feet wet in the business. Steve Primo, tell us a little bit, anything else you want to tell us about yourself or your website in closing here?
Well, if I could just leave the listeners with just one bit of education that has literally saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars of my career. It's just if you get a buy setup or a buy signal on virtually any strategy, it doesn't have to be one of mine, anything you're currently trading, I really think you improve the odds if you are buying or going long above the 50-period moving average, and if you get a short signal, you should be below the 50-period. And the reason why I believe most people lose is because they're doing the opposite. They're going long below and they're going short above. So that one simple technique can really help, and we teach courses and different education, as I said, like this on my website at specialisttrading.com or our sister site, protraderstrategies.com.
Yeah, Steve, years ago when I was doing some mechanical consulting, if we had a system that didn't work, the first thing they'd say is, well, just take trades above the 50 or below the 50. And it's amazing how that simple thing can make all the difference in the world. Right. I'm Dave Landry, again, DaveLandry.com. If you have any questions about anything I talked about, I do answer my own emails personally, David@DaveLandry.com. And like I said earlier, I have a report on my methodology. It's kind of a crash course, so to speak. And then anything that I mentioned today, such as bow ties, that is on my website under education. I have a free newsletter if you're interested in that. It's all on my website, DaveLandry.com. Well, let's turn it back over to David Kosmitter. Thanks again for having me as host this week, and I enjoyed it once again. David, to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Just want to mention, too, for anyone watching, if you have not seen the most recent report, you can go to TimingResearch.com/reports to download the most recent one or any previous one. Also, be sure to go to TimingResearch.com/current survey to fill out this week's survey before next Sunday. And I just want to thank my guests again, Shawn Mckisson of 360wallstreet.com or 360wallst.com, Cameron Yost of DimensionTrader.com, and Steve Primo of SpecialistTrading.com and ProTraderStrategies.com. So that is our show for the week. Thanks, everyone, for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.